सबका यूपीएससी टाइम में स्वागत करती हूँ। आज की वीडियो में हम चैप्टर 8 का लेक्चर 3 देखने वाले हैं। द चैप्टर नेम इज नोवल सोसाइटी एंड द हिस्ट्री। नाउ लेट्स स्टार्ट द चैप्टर। As we are dealing with the novel society and history, now we will study the pleasure of reading. What is the pleasure of reading? How they feel after the reading the books. As elsewhere in the world, in the Indian too, the novel became a popular medium of the entertainment and after that we will deal about circulation of printed books allowed people to amuse themselves in a now ways. Books translation from other language, popular songs sometime composed on a contemporary events, stories in the newspaper and magazine. All these offered new forms of entertainment. In the Tamil, for example, there was a flood of popular novel in the early decade of the 20th century. Detective and mystery novel often had to be printed again and again to meet the demand of readers. Some of them were reprinted as many as 22 times. We are so used to reading in a silence that it is difficult for us to think that this practice was not very common in the past. As late as the 19th century, perhaps even in the early 20th century, written texts were often read aloud for several people to hear. Sometimes novels were also read in this way, but in a general novel encouraged reading alone and in silence. Even in a crowded room, the novel offered a special world of imagination into which the reader could sleep and be all alone. The New Woman. Many people got worried about the effect of the novel on the reader, who were taken away from their real surrounding into an imaginary world where anything could happen. Some of them wrote in newspaper and magazine advising people to stay away from the immoral influence of novels. Women and children were often singled out of the such advice. They were seen as early corruptile. Some parents kept novel in lots of in their house, but out of in their children's reach. This passion was not limited only to the youth. Older women, some of whom could not read, listening with a fascinated attention to popular Tamil novel read out to them by their grandchildren. But a woman did not remain mere reader of the story written by the man. Soon they also began to write the novel. In some language, the early creation of women were the poem, essay, or the autobiographical piece. In the early decade of the 20th century, women in South India also began writing novel and the short stories. A reason for the popularity of the novel among the women was it allowed for new conception of the womanhood, stories of love, and which are staple theme of many novels, showed women who could choose or refuse their partner and the relationship. It shows women should could who some to some extent control their lives. Some women author also wrote about the women who changed the world of the both men and women. Ruqayya Hussain, 1880 to 1932, was a reformer who, after she has widowed, started a girls' school in Kolkata. She wrote a sacrifice fantasy in English called The Sultan's Dream, which shows a tapestry world in which women take place of the man, caste practice, lower caste and the minority. As you have seen, Indulekha was a love story, but it was also about an issue that was hotly debated at the time when the novel was written. This concerned the marriage practice of the upper caste Hindus in Kerala, especially in the Nambutri Brahmins and the Nairas. Nambutris were also major landlord in Kerala at that time. A large section of the Nayars were their tenants. In the late 19th century, Kerala, a younger generation of the English educated Nayar men who had acquired property and the wealth of their own, began arguing strongly against the Nambutri alliance with the Nair women. They wanted new laws regarding marriage and the property. The story of the Hindu Lekha um, is interesting in the light of these debates. Shuri Nambutri, the foolish landlord who come to the marry and focus to the style much tired in the novel, and after that the intelligent heroine reject him and choose Madhavan, the educated and handsome Nair, as her husband, and the young couple move to Madras, where the Madhavan joined the civil service. Suri Namundri debated to find a partner for himself, finally marries a poor relation from the same family and goes away, pretending that he has married into Lekha. Chandu Menon clearly wanted his reader to appreciate the new values of hero and the heroine and criticize the ignorance and immorality of the Suri Nambutri. He converts to Christianity, obtained modern education, and returned as a judge in a local court. Meanwhile, the village, thinking that the landlord man had killed, file a case. At the conclusion of trial, the judge reveals his true identity, and the Nambutri repents and reforms his ways. Saraswati Jayam stressed the importance of education for the upliftment of the lower caste. In the 1920s in Bengal, too, a new kind of novel emerged that depicted the lives of the peasant and the low caste. Advaita Mala Brahmans Tita's Ikti Nadir Nam is an epic about the Malazi community of the fisher folk who live off of fishing in the river Titas. The novel is about the three generations of the Malash, about their recurring tragedies, and the story of Anatha, a child born of parents who were tragically separated after their wedding night. Anatha leaves the community to get educated in a city. The novel describes the community life of the Malalas in a great detail. Their Holi and Kali Puja festival, both races, Bhatili song, their relationship of friendship and animosity with the peasant and the oppression of the upper caste. The life of the community and that of the river is initially tied there and come together. As the river dries up, the community dies too. While novelists become the Bureauman had featured low caste as their protagonist, Titesh is special because the author is himself from the low caste fisher folk community. Over time, the medium of the novel made room for the experiences of community that had not received much space in the literary scenes earlier. Wakam Muhammad Bashir, for example, was one of the early Muslim writers to gain wide renown as a novelist in Malayalam. Bashir had a little formal education. Most of his work were based on his rich personal experience rather than books from the past. When he was in a class 5 at a school, Bashir left home to take part in the Salt Satyagraha. Later, he spent years wandering in different parts of India and traveling even to Arabia, working in a ship, living with the Sufis and the Hindu sannyasi, and training as a wrestler. Bashir's short novel and the stories were written in the ordinary language of the conversation with the wonderful humors. Bashir's novel spoke about the detail from the everyday life of Muslim household. He also brought into the Malayalam writing theme, which were considered were unusual at the time: poverty, insanity, and life in a prison. The nation and the history. History written by colonial historian Trent depicts Indian as a weak, divided, and dependent on the British. Not the traditional Puranic story of the past. People by God and demon, filled with the fantastic and the supernatural, seem convincing to these educated and working under the English system. Such mind wanted to a new view of past that should show that India could be independent minded and had been so in history. The novel provides solution in it. A nation could be imagined in a past that also feature historically characterized event and a date. In Bengal, many historical novels were about the Marathas and the Rajput. Bushded Mukhopadhyay's Angruya Binimoy was the first historical novel written in Bengal. Its hero Shivaji engaged in the many battles against a clever and treacherous Aurangzeb. Mansingh persuades Shivaji to make the peace with Aurangzeb, but give him courage and tendency is his belief that he is a nationalist fighting for the freedom of the Hindus. The imagination of the novel was so powerful that it could inspire actual political movement. Bankim Anand Math is a novel about a secret Hindu militia that fired Muslim to establish a Hindu kingdom. It was a novel that inspired many kind of freedom fighters. Many of these novels also develop the problem of the thinking about the nation. The novel and the nation making. Imagine his heroic past was one of the way in which novel helped in sorry popularizing the sense of belonging to a common nation. Another way was to include various classes in the novel so that they could be seen to belonging to a shared world. Premchand novels, for instance, are filled with all kind of powerful character drawn from the all level of the society. In his novel, you meet the aristocrats and the landlord, middle level peasant and the landless labor, middle class professional, and the people from the margin of the society. The women character are strong individuals, especially those who come from the lower class and are not modernized. Unlike many of his contemporaries, Premchand rejects the nostalgic obsession with the ancient history. Instead, his novel looked toward the future without forgetting the importance of the past. Drawn from the various strata of the society, Premchand character create a community based on a democratic value. The central actor of the novel, Rangbhumi Surdas, is a visually impaired beggar from the untouchable caste. The very act of the choosing such a person as the hero of the novel is a significance. It makes the life of most oppressed section of society as worthily related reflection. We see a Surdas struggling against the forcible takeover of his land for establishing a tobacco factory. As we read the story, we wonder about the industrialization and its impact on the society and the people. Thus, Godan, published in 1936, remained Premchand the best known work. It is an epic to Indian peasantry. The novel tells the moving story of the Hori and his wife Dhanya, a peasant couple, landlord, moneylender, priest, and the colonial bureaucrats, all those who had power in a society, form a network of oppression, rob their land, and make them into landless labor. Yet Hori and the Dhanya retain their dignity to the end. With slide, our this lecture is complete, and this chapter is also complete. If you like this video, then hit the like button, and if you are new in this channel, please subscribe the channel and press the bell icon for upcoming next video. um, Thanks for watching the video. Stay tuned with the chapter. Thank you. And one more thing, if you have a query related to subject and the chapter, then you can ask from comments box. Thank you.